I work at NASA. I won't tell you my name, as releasing this information is already going to have me black bagged. I can only hope that whoever reads this can help. Massive technological advancements have been made in the last 10 years, particularly in the field of astrophotography, none more so than the recent image circulating online from the Webb telescope. It shows in the greatest detail to date the SMACS 0723 galaxy cluster as it appears 4.6 billion years ago. The picture stirs emotions in all who have seen it, what grand things humanity can achieve when we put our minds to it. Not all marvels, however, were meant to be seen or achieved. Hubris, it seems, will be our undoing. In the weeks and months following the publication of the image, NASA started to receive faint broad-spectrum transmissions coming from the cluster itself. Top analysts from around the world were brought together to decipher the signals, which appeared in a hitherto unknown format. For weeks they racked their brains, exhausting every known combination of high-level decryption technology the world had to offer. A breakthrough was achieved just a few short days ago. The format was converted and translated using a new technology recently developed by DARPA. The message we received reads as follows: "Please be silent. You are looking where they can see you. They will come. We won't be able to stop them this time. Please be silent." Every small town has its secrets, and the town of Ravens Hollow was no different. Hidden beneath the surface was the darkness that only a few knew of. At the center of it all was the town's morgue, a crumbling, decrepit building that had seen better days. Henry, a timid, quiet man, was a new employee at the morgue, having started just a week earlier. He had never been one for superstitions or ghost stories, but something about the old building sent chills down his spine. He chalked it up to an overactive imagination and went about his duties. As the night shift began, Henry found himself alone in the dark, echoing halls of the morgue. With each flickering light, the shadows seemed to dance and play tricks on his mind. He shook it off and focused on his task at hand, to prepare the bodies for burial. The first body he encountered had been brutally mutilated, with the limbs torn from the torso and the innards spilling out. Henry's hand shook as he attempted to sew the body back together. He couldn't help but feel that the lifeless eyes were watching him, silently accusing him of some unknown crime. With each body he tended to, the feeling of unease grew stronger. Disemboweled corpses with twisted expressions and mutilated bodies stared at him from their cold metal tables. Henry's nerves were frayed, and he couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was lurking in the morgue with him. As midnight approached, Henry heard a faint whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Join us," the voice hissed. Henry's heart raced, and he quickly turned, scanning the room for the source of the voice. He saw nothing but the bodies on the tables, their dead eyes staring back at him. The whisper grew louder, more insistent. "Join us," he repeated, the words echoing through the room. Suddenly, the mutilated bodies began to twitch and writhe on their cold metal slabs. Henry watched in horror as it came to life, their limbs flailing and their empty eyes focusing on him. The disemboweled corpses dragged their entrails on the floor, inching closer and closer. Henry stumbled backward, desperately searching for an exit. The morgue had become a labyrinth of terror, its walls closing in on him. The once familiar halls twisted and turned, trapping him in a never-ending nightmare. As the bodies closed in, Henry could hear their whispers grow louder, a cacophony of haunting voices that drowned out his frantic cries for help. "Join us," they repeated. Their twisted faces were mere inches from his own. In the darkness of the morgue, the line between the living and dead blurred, and Henry's fate was sealed. The next morning, the morgue's doors remained locked, and no one answered when the employees knocked. It wasn't until the police arrived that they managed to break down the door, revealing a scene of utter horror. Henry's mutilated body lay among the corpses, his eyes wide with terror. The morgue's dark secret had claimed another victim, and the haunting whispers of the dead would continue to echo through the halls of Ravens Hollow. "Join us." There is motion at your front door. I've been seeing a lot more of these alerts on my phone over the last 2 days from our Ring doorbell. You can adjust how sensitive the camera is to movement, so you don't get as many false positives, and this was the first step I took. My wife and I have some bushes right by our front porch that sometimes trigger these alerts. I'd given up checking the actual video feed for the most part because of how often this was happening. Initially, adjusting the sensitivity settings for the doorbell seemed to solve the issue. I was relieved because all the false positives were draining the battery of the camera, and it was annoying having to bring it inside so frequently to recharge it. Recently though, I started getting more alerts during the day at odd times. They'd stop around bedtime but picked up again in the early hours of the morning for some baffling reason. The last 2 mornings, roughly around 3 a.m., I received a flurry of alerts on my phone. When I checked the Ring app, the thumbnail image for the video feed was completely dark, and I couldn't make anything out. I checked the live feed, and it was the same. This is odd because I always leave the porch light on at night, so I should have been able to see something. I grabbed my nightstand gun and went to investigate. Opening the door slightly, I peeked outside and realized I had indeed forgotten to leave the porch light on. I like having our porch well lit at night, as I feel like doing so is a deterrent to would-be thieves. I flicked it on and I looked around. I didn't see anyone around, so I closed the door, locked it, and went back to bed. The same thing happened again this morning, a flurry of motion alerts around 3 a.m. Even in my groggy state, I'm self-aware enough to acknowledge how incredibly forgetful I am. I'm the guy who spends 10 minutes looking for the TV remote only to realize it's been in his hand the whole time. I rolled my eyes at myself, figured I forgot to turn on the porch light again. To be safe though, I clicked on one of the alerts on my phone and I was immediately startled by the thumbnail image that presented to me. Staring back at me in the dark, blurry close-up of an image of a man's face. It filled the entire thumbnail, so his face must have been right up against the camera. As I processed what I was seeing, I noticed a couple of other details about the man's face. Even with poor lighting, I could see enough of his face to tell me his eyes were very far apart. So much so that it bordered on unnatural. He also had the widest grin I'd ever seen a person have, with way more teeth I would have thought humanly possible. I was so unnerved by that. Even with my nightstand gun, I did not want to confront this guy. I clicked on the thumbnail in order to bring up the live feed, but the man appeared to be gone. I still couldn't make out much more of the image though, so I hesitated for a moment, trying to decide whether to phone the police to be on the safe side or check things out myself. I like to err on the safe side, so I started to get up in order to take a step into the other room to phone the police so not to wake my wife. She's a light sleeper, so the slight commotion woke her anyway, and she groggily asked me what I was doing. Not wanting to worry her, I simply said I couldn't sleep. I remember I left the porch light off and I just wanted to go turn it on. There was a pause, and what she said next made the color drain from my face. As she turned over to go back to sleep, she mumbled,
"While you're at it, can you make sure and put the doorbell back outside? I brought it in the other day to let it charge and I forgot to put it back up."
I felt sick as her words sank in. The odd timing of the motion alerts during the day had been the camera picking up our own movements as the device sat charging on the kitchen counter. But the ones in the early hours of the morning, that face staring into the camera, those had been recorded inside our home. Another alert startled me out of shock. There is a motion at your front door.
Well, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you have any story recommendations, please feel free to let me know. It's a work in progress. I promise I will get better at it. So, anywho, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Peace!